Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello Scott.
Josh, my friend, it's the first time I've cared about Gran Turismo in 20 years. I think that might also be the case for a lot of people watching this, and we want to break down a few different things in regards to the game, the ups, the downs, the pros, the cons, whatever. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think we should start with the graphics. You know, we got a review copy by Sony. You know, we've been playing this before Elden Ring drops, so we managed to spend some time with it. And I think the big thing that everyone's looking at Gran Turismo 7 about is it being, you know, a showcase. Gran Turismo has always, you know, boasted some of the most cutting-edge graphics and technology in the racing game, and it's always been a great way to show off the new consoles. Obviously now it's on PlayStation 4 as well as PlayStation 5. We've been playing the PlayStation 5 version, and I think the thing that I want to get into first, not to start with a bit of a negative, but when it comes to like the graphics and the presentation, for me there's something of like a mixed bag, and I wasn't expecting this because I look at the car models. I think the car models are best in class. Like, they are unreal. When you've got ray tracing turned on and you're looking at the light bouncing off the different kind of, you know, metals, all of that stuff.
The interiors are gorgeous as well.
The interiors are unreal. If you're playing the like first person, you know, mode from the point of view of the driver. This is a steering wheel. I don't drive in real life, so you probably tell. I don't know what this is.
I've got one of these, and I bought the car that is mine, and it's exactly like the car I have, which is exactly what it should be.
There you go. You know what I mean? Like, the attention to detail on the cars themselves is incredible. I also love the skyboxes. You know, a lot was made about the new weather system in this game and how it can kind of adapt when you're going around these tracks, especially with HDR on, and you kind of see the sunset come in, it turns into night. Like, it is spectacular. The issue is, while I do think a lot of elements are best in class, there are some issues with the presentation, especially the environment and the tracks and the background details on the tracks that don't really mesh with it. It's only an issue because the other stuff is so good that you can't help but notice when it's falling down. And Gran Turismo as a series, but especially this game, is more about kind of reveling in the cars themselves and reveling in replays rather than, as much as the actual driving. So, you know, every time you finish a race, you're encouraged to watch the replays, you're encouraged to really take in the detail. And that's just kind of a little bit of an issue where you have these absolutely pristine elements meshed with elements that feel decidedly the last gen, which was something I didn't expect.
That's the thing. I mean, we found out, I think it was only last year when they said actually it is coming to PS4 as well, even though it was initially announced as a PS5 game. And, you know, the default is you have a new console to show off. Where's the driving game? There's nearly always something that shows off just how shiny the cars are this generation, and that's what this game needs to tick the box of. And in regards to just the cars, it very much does that. And they have this insane weather system, like you said. The sun, like the weather, different weather settings look great, and very rivaling Drive Club for rain. It's been a while.
I know.
It's better
years ago or something. That was.
I know, right? It's been a while, but that's the thing. As an overall visual punch, I was thinking this looks like something from a few years ago. If you look at the environments, the landscapes, it doesn't tick that box of, oh my god, it looks photoreal. And that's obviously the thing that we've been chasing for the longest time. And it's not to say that it doesn't hit that in some spots. They have an interesting photo mode when you go into your car library, your car garage library archive, where you can hit a thing called scapes. You can check out some scapes, which are various locations from around the world that have been assumedly photogrammetry recorded. So you can just plonk your car in there and take some screenshots and whatever. You can have fun with that stuff. That's the closest it got to just looking like an actual real life thing. Which is just, you know, there's so much more to this game that we're going to get to, but in regards to just, you know, some people going in there, more casual racing fans, more like myself, just going, is this going to tick the box of, look what my PS5 can do? Kinda, but not always.
That's it. I think, you know, it kind of sucks that it's coming out immediately after Forza Horizon 5. You know, obviously very, very different racing games. You know, they both have different priorities when it comes to the actual mechanics and the gameplay and what have you. But if you look at like Forza Horizon 5, to me the car models in that game are pristine, but the environment itself is also like incredibly lush. In here, you just kind of do have those elements in the tracks where you sort of think, I wish that was touched up a little bit. I wish that was a little bit better. It does feel, in for both good and bad, like an early PS5 game. It's showing you what the PS5 is capable of, but I don't think this is what the PS5 is capable of. I think if we get, you know, probably another 7 years where we get Gran Turismo 8 or maybe a Gran Turismo Sport 2, you know, we might get something that really fills out those elements. So I just kind of wanted to front load with that thing because I was really expecting, you know, to be completely wowed, and I was, just not as much as I wanted to be.
Yeah, so this is the pivot point because I think, like, to get any other negatives out the way, I do think this makes a really bad first impression. It takes a while before they give you anything really. You've got a lot of a really elongated opening cutscene thing. There's a weird music mini game that the game opens on, and there's a lot of, you know, here's some really low horsepower cars that handle like tanks going going around most corners for a little while, but once you start unlocking some better cars and you get some sports cars and you can just leap in and do a Gran Turismo, I think things at the earlier games, if you're returning to this from that original trilogy, especially GT1 and Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec, they were more immediate in just going like, you've got a glitzy fancy new console, here's some cars, go do a race. This thing gets there, and that's when all these different parts start coming together, because they've done a lot with the UI, the way that you actually go into stuff, the way the different currencies work in regards to accruing credits, but there's some microtransaction stuff in there. Yes. There's a lot of things to get into in that regard.
This is it. There is a surprising amount to dig your teeth into in this experience. It is a big game. It has a lot of different elements, a lot of different features, but I kind of going back to what you mentioned there, I feel like if you love the Gran Turismo franchise, you're going to love this. If you love its idiosyncrasies, if you love its pace, if you love the way it works, like this is going to be home sweet home. Like this starts off, you're doing the classic things, you're immediately jumping into buying, used cars that are incredibly slow, tough to handle, going around these circular tracks, having to do your kind of like driver's license and hitting like these kind of roadblocks. If you live and breathe the personality that comes with Gran Turismo, you're going to love it. I just think, like you said, if you're a more casual player, or if this is your first Gran Turismo, you're going to be jumping in and thinking, this was that what I was really expecting.
It is interesting because as Polyphony Digital have done so many Gran Turismo games over time, they have become this super, really pristine, polished studio full of car enthusiasts who want to tell you about the history of different engine parts, and they want to tell you about the history of certain manufacturers and what makes automotive such an appealing thing as an art form, let's say. And so that's the thing that they started doubling down on more across the 2000s, which got away from the immediacy of the original games. But it's interesting to note that in this one, it feels Polyphony AF, because like that opening cutscene is the history of automotive. See, they're talking about the Titanic and engines and stuff. And then, in regards to the way that they present unlocking cars and everything, they're treated as a menu in a cafe. You're getting the history of these different cars, these different manufacturers. So all that stuff is in there if you like to sort of treat a variety of cars as almost a delicacy or a cuisine or something like that.
It is unashamedly a Gran Turismo game, like I said, for better or worse. Like, it is full of that personality. It is really cool in many places. Like I said, that comes through really well in the attention to detail that's in there. Like you said, the love of cars, the love of the history of cars is all over it. Like you could be tweaking your menus until your heart's content. You can be looking into the history of these things. And like you said, it has this kind of central campaign mode where you're going to this cafe, this virtual cafe, and you're essentially doing car menu books. You get told to go do some races, to collect cars off the menu, and then you hand them in. It is so weird, but it's kind of cool, it's kind of neat, and like you said, it does kind of like ease you in to this culture in a way. It eases you into the mechanics, but because it has to ease you in, it does make for a slow start. Like this isn't really a game that you could just jump in and then kind of like go with.
I didn't expect in Gran Turismo 7 or for me on this earth in 2022 to be doing a license test on how to stop and start your car.
Yes, well,
ludicrous.
But I imagine like to a long time Gran Turismo fans, they're like, if that wasn't there, maybe they'd be annoyed. Maybe they'd be annoyed. You know what I mean?
You're worst enemy, Gran Turismo fans, and we're one of you.
This is the thing, man. Like there's so many kind of like these roadblocks, these speed bumps in there that stops it being this kind of immediate, almost casual kind of thing. And it's a shame because like the actual car handling, the actual racing for me is like incredible. For me, like the races themselves are just great, and that comes down to the actual feedback from the controller. It obviously uses the DualSense integration. You've got like the rumble, you've got the haptics, you've got all that stuff going on, and you really get the sense that in a lot of ways, say you're going 200 miles per hour in what feels like a tin can. It feels in your hands like you're piloting this thing that could go off-road at any second, and that just adds a level of tactility that I love.
Yeah, man, super quickly to add on to the DualSense, this might be the best DualSense game so far. Like to the point of, you're going around certain corners, maybe you start touching the chevrons as you go around a certain part of a corner, you'll feel it in the like let's say your right hand side of the car touches the right hand side chevrons, the right side of the controller starts to vibrate differently. Little things like that you can't really put into words, you do need to just feel it. But I might hold this up as the best DualSense game so far.
That is, I mean, there's been a lot of good ones, man, but I'm not even going to argue against it, because I'm like, it does implement it really well, and it does add that extra layer. It's funny because, racing games in Gran Turismo. Right back when the PS5 was first announced, in the Wired interview with Mark Cerny,
yes,
he was talking about how it would change like games like this, because you can feel the weight of your car on different surfaces that could be incorporated. And it really is in a great way. And it is those extra elements that separate this from Gran Turismo Sport. Like, I played a lot of that, in the handling of the cars, in the feel of them is familiar if you're going straight from Sport to GT7, but it's these extra details in the haptics, in the DualSense, and in the sound as well. Like, if you're playing this with headphones on, like the roar of the engines are just like incredibly crisp. They feel authentic, and it's that kind of sense of immersion when you're in there that is great, which is kind of why, going back to the graphics points just briefly, why it's kind of so frustrating when you do see those details that take you out of it, because everything else is firing on full cylinders, like getting you in. And then it is just a shame that one or two elements are kind of like pulling
it's sort of just front-loading people to know that, because obviously Gran Turismo is one of the biggest, if not the biggest driving franchise around. Forza's close, but obviously because it came after GT, it's always like, it hasn't struggled to keep up, but they've always vied for position, let's say. I think Forza's dominated a lot more in the last 15, 20 years overall, but it feels like everyone knows Gran Turismo. They have those associations with the original games. So I think it's worth just pointing out that if you wanted to put this on and throw it on as a, oh my god, look what my PS5 can do thing, it can do that to some degree, but the real meat of this is getting past that idea and drinking in the entire package itself.
This is it, man. And I think, like I said before, it's Gran Turismo for better or worse. You have to meet this game on its own terms. You have to realize that you're going to spend as much time in menus and looking at your car as you are driving it. Like, for me, as a real criticism, I do think the menus just completely suck.
Yeah.
I think it takes way too long to get from, say, your garage to the tuning shop.
Why is the mouse cursor menu everywhere?
I don't know. It does look kind of like a mobile app style thing. It looks like you should be able to touch the different points rather than
like a desktop, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they've built it with PSVR 2 in mind, and you'll maybe be doing stuff like that. I don't know.
That would blow my mind. I want to play this in PSVR 2. I'm so much looking forward to that. I think that would be unreal. But it's just kind of like that issue where nothing is in the menus as immediate as you want it to be. You spend a lot of time kind of flicking between them, like I said, and that can be frustrating if you just kind of want to get into the next race, get into the next circuit, get into the next cup.
It's also worth throwing in as well, I mentioned microtransactions in regards to other things that are in here, and they're turned off for the pre-release period, but you can, it comes up saying you can buy credits to buy cars. So I wonder what the tiers are going to be like for that. This will mark the second time that Sony have tried microtransaction implementation in their first party stuff. Destruction All-Stars locked the story behind microtransactions, which was terrible, and hopefully they've learned from that. But to some degree, it makes sense putting some microtransaction element in here if it's going to be this long form, platform, let's say, for Gran Turismo in the long term.
I'm interested to see how this works because, to elaborate, after races, you're accruing this in-game currency for depending on how well you're doing, where you came in the cups, what have you, and you use that currency to buy cars, to buy car parts, all of that stuff. And every time you're hit with a bit of this currency, you get the prompt of, do you want to buy more? Like, do you want to get more? Fortunately, in my experience so far, I've had enough currency.
Same.
Like, I'm drowning in it. I'm always getting enough to buy kind of like new cars, new car parts. I'm never kind of at zero and wondering where the next kind of, cash injection is going to come from so I can progress. So hopefully that balance kind of like continues into the post-release and the monetization aspect of it isn't aggressive, because it doesn't seem like that now. It just seems like a regular progression system that isn't, forcing you to buy into it. What is weird though is it kind of has not a loot box system, but it's similar to Forza Horizon, where you kind of get like these tokens to spin a wheel and then you unlock things.
Yeah, pick a card.
You have a few versions of that here. Like after some races, you can pick, after some cups, you can pick between 3 cards and it'll grant you a car that you can't see. And you also get these tokens to spin like a roulette wheel that have different star ratings, and you see like 5 different rewards and it kind of spins around. Those systems to me don't quite work just because I never feel fully rewarded. Like,
I'm always just annoyed at what I didn't get.
That's it. In the amount of time I spent with the game, like most of the time, instead of getting the nice car, I would get like the pittance,
the coins,
the 5,000 coins, and that is kind of a system where I'm like, I don't feel rewarded from this. I think there might have been a better alternative in there than that, because again, it's also very slow. You have to go into its own menu, go into the garage, go into the token thing, spin the token, and it's like there's a lot of steps to enjoy this game.
Well, the thing is, overall, I feel like they've built, like I said, it's almost this platform. You have this big open-ended desktop-style menu with a bunch of different icons, a bunch of different ways to interact with it. You can make a racer profile. You can do all these different things. And obviously, there's pages that connect you to the Gran Turismo page on the literal internet itself. And there's links to all the different manufacturer pages. So it's like they've got all these different brand sponsorship tie-in deals. And it's meant to, work for a long time. It's meant to be here for the rest of the generation, assumedly. And so, I mean, I guess they do a GTA, but it feels like something that's built to have things plugged into it over time.
Absolutely.
So there is a way that you can just enjoy all these systems and the way that they come together. Definitely be a thing to keep an eye on, though, in regards to the way the economy feels over time. And hopefully Sony don't do weird stuff and change things after launch.
I really liked Gran Turismo Sport, but I jumped in that a few years after it launched. And I know a lot of the issues people had with that is that the content was very light when it first came out, and the developers supported it as the kind of like years went on, and then it transformed into a really good Gran Turismo game. This feels, because it's a numbered sequel and because it has all of these extra features, it does feel like it's coming at this live service kind of gimmick from a much better starting point. It already feels like a complete game, which makes me excited to see how they're going to support it going forward. Like, what are they going to add in there? There's already a lot of cars, for instance, to buy and to collect. That's a whole part of the game. But I want to see what's added, what tracks are added, how they keep this thing fresh, because they did that pretty well with Sport.
Yeah, well, it's interesting as well, because where Gran Turismo is, Forza as a main series is kind of just waiting at this point. We know that they're going to be soft rebooting it going forward. But that's just sort of over there somewhere. Forza Horizon is the thing that's dominating on the Xbox space, but obviously that's way more arcadey. They've sort of gone down a way more arcadey route, with some simulation physics stuff, but Gran Turismo is very much the pristine, circuit racing, track racing phenom that it always was, whereas something like Sport steered a little bit more towards Forza arcadey stuff, or more immediacy, whereas this one is like, this is for car enthusiasts through and through.
Totally, man. Like, it feels like your granddaddy's racing game, like I said, for better or worse. It feels like this kind of like pristine set of dinner plates that your mum and dad have.
With the blue pattern around the outside.
And you can get them out and you can look at them, but you can't touch it too much. You can't get it too smudged.
You've got to get the gloves on.
Yeah, you got to get the gloves on. You can't go smash it up. It's not to be played with in that way. And I think, I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited to jump back in yet again after Elden Ring, once hopefully the online part of it is like much more populated. For me at the moment, like I'd go for a solid 4 stars, because I think the racing is that good. I think the car collection aspect is really good. The customization is insane. Like, it has a lot going for it. It just has this baggage on top. It just has, like I said, these roadblocks that stop it from being as pristine and as polished as I'd want a PS5 game especially to be.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's walking an interesting line between how Polyphony want their signature feel to come across versus, being this console-leading racing game, and it's going to be for a mass casual audience, but it's also for a hardcore audience. And by 25 years in, it is the 25th anniversary of Gran Turismo itself. So I think they try and, they walk a very fine line. I think they mostly pull it off, but 4 stars is exactly what I would say too. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. When was the last time you played a Gran Turismo, and are you looking forward to GT7 overall? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.